Hi, Will from MusicTech here at the NAMM show in Anaheim with Nick from Korg, and we're looking at the Volca Modular, which is bringing the West Coast synthesis sound to the Volca range. Nick, can we take a quick listen to this?
Absolutely.
That's bonkers. Can you tell us, what were you doing there? Were you working between these different modules, patching together? What was happening?
Yeah, so there's 8 modules that make up Volca Modular. It's technically a semi-modular analog synthesizer, and as you said, it's West Coast, so it has a lot of the hallmarks of West Coast synthesis. You have a source module, which is your oscillator, but it has some features like a wave folder and wave shaping that weren't really found on some of the East Coast style subtractive synthesizers. And then you have things like functions instead of having an envelope, which is another hallmark of West Coast synthesis. Low pass gates instead of just regular filters, which is a filter and amplifier basically in the same type of module. And then you have things like woggle, so you can introduce randomness. So what I was basically doing is modulating the decay time of each of the notes with a random sample and hold from the woggle, and also modulating the reverb on board, which is a stereo reverb called the space out, using the smooth output of the woggle. And then I looped the second function there, created sort of an LFO to control the wave folder, and then I patched both oscillators together so you heard the main oscillator and the lower oscillator in unison, which second was 2 octaves down, and I just fiddled around with stuff like the tempo, which could be modulated if I wanted to do that, and just kind of brought in a little bit more reverb, messed with the cutoff on the LPG, and just gave you a little bit. And then, of course, I changed the scale, the micro tunings on here. You can select, I went from a major pentatonic to a minor pentatonic, but there's custom micro tunings available, as well as a whole bunch of scales that are useful for composing.
So that's an incredible amount of control and flexibility you get there. 8 modules in a single Volca. Is this designed to get people into the world of modular synthesis then?
Absolutely. I think with the affordable price and the fact that we have a lot of resources available online for people to learn to use this, we just today put out a 5-part tutorial that covers every single thing that you would need to get started on Volca Modular. It's really a great beginner's modular, and it's a little different than other modular synths, especially beginner synths, because it's West Coast, but I think that the ease of use and having a self-contained unit is going to shine through and help people get into modular that may not have considered it before.
So just for those people at home who maybe don't know what the West Coast versus East Coast means, Buchla would be is a very famous example, a proponent of the West Coast synthesis style, and there's a lot of random elements involved, and this even looks quite like a music easel.
Well, you said it.
I said it, yeah. So then how does this integrate, how does this scale up into a Eurorack system, for instance?
So you can take Eurorack voltages and bring them into the CV input over here, and that will actually scale the CV to the Volca Modular's internal voltage. So you have a CV and a gate. So if I had, a Eurorack sequencer or a CV gate keyboard, I could take that in and control the Volca Modular with that. We've also prototyped cables that would allow us to take these Dupont cables and take the voltage out to a Eurorack system. So look out for that in the future, we're working on it. And then, of course, there is the ability to patch between one Volca Modular to another. So basically, these Dupont cables are one connector, so you would need to create a shared ground between the two devices. This can be done by syncing them, connecting them to the same mixer, just having that ground pin connected among all units. And then if I had another Volca Modular here, I could patch modulation information up to that one from this one, or vice versa.
Wow, okay, so there's a lot to take in there. There's also these tiny little needle cables. Are these included as well?
So it comes with 20 of these DuPont-style patch cables. They're one connector. It's so we could fit 50 patch points onto this Volca. If we did it in 1/8 inch, we wouldn't have been able to fit so many patch points.
Of course.
But it lets you, modify the signal path and the modulation routing of your Volca Modular very, very deeply for such a easily accessible synthesizer.
Wow, so the question is, how much does it cost? And how soon can we play with one in our own homes?
So in the US, this is going to be a little bit more than the other Volcas because it comes with those patch cables and the development costs. So it's going to be $199 US, which is still far more affordable than
more
pretty much any other West Coast synth, right? And then it's going to be available in February, March. They're probably going to be shipping February, hitting stores March.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Nick.
Thanks for having me.